As a young man, what would you do if your girlfriend falls in love with your father? This is the story of Tunde, his girlfriend Ife, and his father Niyi. Let us dive into the story. In a western town in Nigeria, the sun cast long shadows over the modest home of Mr. Niyi, a man in his early 40s. He had once been a joyful husband, but life had dealt him a hard blow when his wife Adebisi passed away from a sudden illness. The house, once filled with laughter, now echoed with silence, except for the soft steps of his son Tunde, who was in his early 20s. Tunde was a good boy, but since his mother's death, he had become distant. He had his life ahead of him, filled with friends and dreams, but he often forgot the little things that mattered. His girlfriend Ife was a bright young woman who had always supported him. She was kind, understanding, but craved attention, and Tunde was too wrapped up in his own grief to notice. Days turned into weeks, and Tunde's indifference hurt Ife deeply. She would often call him, plan dates, but he rarely responded with enthusiasm. He was busy with his own life, lost in thoughts of what could have been. One evening, Ife sat on the porch of Mr. Niyi's home, a place she had come to often in her relationship with Tunde. She watched as Niyi tended to the garden, an oasis of colors in their dusty neighborhood. Niyi noticed her watching him and invited her to join him. Mr. Niyi observed that his son Tunde has not been giving Ife the needed attention she deserves in their relationship. He would confront Tunde to stop neglecting the poor girl, but Tunde would sound uninterested. But Niyi really liked the girl and would want her to be a part of their family. So Niyi thought of something. He started writing love letters and sending gifts to Ife at her house. But instead, write his son's name Tunde as the sender. Ife would receive them and would be very happy that finally Tunde has started showing her some affection. But when she meets Tunde to greet him for the letters, Tunde would say he doesn't know what she is talking about. She will be confused, but later waved it off, saying maybe he is being humble. Niyi continued sending the letters to her, disguising as his son, just so that Ife will not get tired of Tunde and leave him, and hoping that one day Tunde will realize his mistakes. Then one day, Ife was coming to see Tunde, and as she entered the house without knocking, just as she normally does, behold, she saw Niyi writing the letters. "So it is you all along," she told Niyi. And Niyi said, "I am so sorry for misleading you, Ife. I know that my son hasn't been treating you nicely, but I really don't want him to lose you. I want you to be a part of our family." And Ife drew close to Mr. Niyi and said, "Even though I might not end up with your son, Your family will not lose me, for I have fallen in love with the writer of those letters. Those kind and heart-melting words. Oh, you are a kind and gentle man, Mr. Niyi, and you know how to treat a lady. I really want to be with you. Niyi looked a bit shocked, but within him, those days of writing those letters, he had started developing feelings for the girl. But he would dismiss them, saying that she is too young, and also she is his son's girlfriend. He wouldn't want to betray him. I am old enough to be your father, Niyi said. And besides, how will Tunde feel about this? If he cut in, age is not but a number, and you are not my father. I am a grown woman, and I know what I want. And about Tunde, he will just have to understand. After all, he doesn't even know if I exist or not. I have deep feelings for you, Mr. Niyi. Please let us make it work. But for starters, Mr. Niyi said, you will stop calling me Mr. Niyi. But let me think about this. As Tunde continued to neglect her, Ife found solace in conversations with Niyi. He listened to her dreams, and he shared his own experiences. And in those moments, Ife felt seen. Niyi reminded her of the warmth and attention she longed for, something Tunde had unintentionally withdrawn. And Niyi finally agreed to be with Ife. But the only problem now is to break the news to Tunde. Weeks turned into months, and the bond between Ife and Niyi grew. So please, if you have watched till this moment, kindly subscribe to my channel. Click the likes there and help promote my channel as I bring you more interesting stories. Thank you. Now let us go back to the story. Weeks turned into months, and the bond between Ife and Niyi grew. It was unexpected, but life often has a way of surprising us. One night, Tunde came home late after spending time with friends. He found his father and Ife laughing in the living room. The atmosphere warm and inviting. Jealousy stirred in him. Why are you always here? Tunde snapped. The words harsh and uncharacteristic. Ife flinched, but Niyi responded calmly. She has been a good company, Tunde. You should appreciate that. But Tunde couldn't see it. He had been so wrapped up in his own world that he didn't realize how much he had pushed Ife away. Days passed, and the tension hung thick in the air. Ife and Niyi continued to share a bond that was growing stronger and stronger, while Tunde, blinded by his grief and pride, watched helplessly as his girlfriend fell for his father. One day, Tunde returned home to find Niyi and Ife sitting together, hands intertwined, laughter filling the air. It felt like a betrayal, a knife twisting in his chest. How could you? He demanded, his voice cracking with hurt. Ife deserves happiness, Niyi replied softly. You haven't been present for her. Tunde stormed out, anger boiling over. He felt abandoned, angry at his father for moving on, and angry at Ife for not waiting. But deep down, he knew it was his fault. He had let his grief overshadow the love that was right in front of him. In the days that followed, Tunde struggled with his feelings. He saw Ife and Niyi together, and jealousy consumed him. One evening, after a long day of wrestling with his emotions, he returned home and found them discussing wedding plans. "Stop this!" he shouted, desperation in his voice. "You can't marry my father." Ife stood, tears in her eyes. "I love him, Tunde. You pushed me away. I waited, but you never came back to me. Because I was grieving. I lost my mother." Tunde's voice trembled. "And I lost the man I thought you could be," Niyi added, his tone firm yet gentle. The words hung heavy in the air. Tunde's heart sank, realizing the truth. He had lost Ife not because of her love for his father, but because of his own neglect. Days passed, and Tunde found himself wrestling with his emotions. Their street was buzzing with news of Niyi and Ife's impending wedding. He felt the walls closing in, and in a moment of clarity, he realized that it wasn't just about love or loss. It was about moving forward. With a heavy heart, he approached his father and Ife. "I am sorry for how I acted. I was selfish," he admitted, his voice shaky. "If you both love each other, then I want you to be happy." Niyi looked at his son Tunde, a mixture of surprise and relief crossing his face. "Thank you, son. It means more than you know." Ife stepped forward, her eyes glistening. "I didn't want to hurt you, Tunde. I just wanted to be loved." As the wedding day approached, the town buzzed with excitement. Tunde stood at the altar, watching as his father and Ife exchanged vows. A part of him still ached, but he knew this was a new chapter for them all. After the ceremony, Tunde pulled Ife aside. "I hope you find the happiness you deserve." She smiled, tears in her eyes. "I always loved you, Tunde, but sometimes love isn't enough if it isn't nurtured." With time, Tunde learned to forgive himself. He poured his energy into his own passions, understanding that love could take many forms. Mr. Niyi and Ife found joy in their union, and though Tunde missed what he once had, he also learned that sometimes life's hardest lessons lead to the greatest growth. As the sun sets over all, Tunde found peace, knowing that family could be redefined and love could flourish in unexpected ways. Here you have it. Love indeed is beautiful, and it could come in unexpected ways. Thank you for watching. Bye for now.